Yo, what's going on everybody? It's your bro, hope you're doing well, and in this video I'm going to explain date objects in JavaScript, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Alright, we're talking about date objects today. A date object represents a moment in time since epoch, also pronounced as epoch. So this is a reference point where your web browser thinks time began, and we use it as a reference point, and we determine how many milliseconds has passed since this point. So to find our epoch, this is what we can do. Let's say date equals new date, and then add a set of parentheses. What we're doing is constructing a date object, then pass in 0 as an argument. So this will find our epoch, and this should be a date that we can read. So let's use console.log our date. So my epoch is Wednesday, December 31st, 1969 at about 6 p.m. So we can use this as a reference point to find our current date and time. By passing in a numeric value in milliseconds, what we're doing is creating a date object so many milliseconds since our epoch. So by passing in 0, this will return our epoch. If I was to pass in, let's say 1 million milliseconds, well then we're going to have a new date. This date really didn't change much. It's just 6 p.m., 16 minutes, and 40 seconds. Let's try 1 billion. That would be January 12th, 1970. How about 1 trillion? September 8th, 2001. And what comes after trillion, quadrillion? That is the year 33,658. So you kind of get the idea. By passing in a numeric value, these are the amount of milliseconds since our epoch date. And for me, that's Wednesday, December 31st, 1969. Now, to get the current date and time, we would pass in no arguments. So date equals new date, then do not pass in any arguments. So the current date and time is March 26th, 2021, about 2 p.m. So if you need the current date and time, pass in no arguments. Here's another way that we can construct a unique date object. Date equals new date. And then we can pass in up to 7 arguments beginning with the year, the month, the day, hour, minutes, seconds, then milliseconds. Be sure to at least add year and month, because if you just pass in a year, well then your date constructor is going to think that this is milliseconds. So we have our year of 2022, what about a month? So this is a range between 0 and 11. So January would be 0, February is 1, March is 2, then April is 3, in that order. So let's say April, that would be 3, then a day of the month. What about maybe 4? So April 4th, then we need hours. Let's say 6 p.m., so that's in military time, 0 through 23. So 18 is 6 p.m. Then minutes, maybe just 1, seconds 2, milliseconds 3. So our new date should display Monday, April 4th, 2022, just after 6 p.m. So that's one way in which you can construct a unique date object. You can pass in up to 7 arguments beginning with the year, the month, the day, the hour, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds if you really need it. Another option is that we can pass in a string representation of a date and or time. Let's say date equals new date, and I will this time pass in a string. Maybe April 20th, 2022, and for the time, let's say 4 p.m., so that would be 1600, 4 minutes, maybe 20, seconds, perhaps 01, then if you really need milliseconds, you can just add that too. So our new date is Wednesday, April 20th, 2022, about 4 p.m. So you have a couple different ways of creating a date object. You can pass in milliseconds since epoch. If you need the current time, you pass in no arguments. You can pass in up to 7 arguments beginning with the year, month, day, then hour, so-and-so, or a string representation of a date and or time. So you have a couple different ways of creating a date object. So with date objects, there's some built-in get methods so that we can get a certain value from a date object. So here I have variables year, month, day of the week, day of the month, hours, minutes, seconds, and milliseconds. So I'm going to use a get method of my date object to get each of these values that we need for each variable. So I need to get the current year from my date object. So I'm going to type date.getFullYear, and this is a method. Then I'll display this just to demonstrate console.log year. So my year variable has a value of 2022. So that is the year from my date. So this time, let's get the month. Date.getMonth. Then display it. My month is 3. So remember that January is 0, then February is 1, March is 2, April is 3 then. All right, next we have day of the week, date.getDay. This will return a value between 0 and 6. Sunday is 0, and Saturday is 6. So it is currently, I think that is Wednesday, I believe. All right, then day of the month. So day of the month is date.getDate. So let's log day of the month. So that is April 20th. Then hours, date.getHours. I'll just speed run through these because they're kind of self-explanatory at this point. Then date.getMinutes for minutes. Then seconds is date.getSeconds. And lastly, milliseconds, date.getMilliseconds. And then I will just display these. So we have day of the month, hours, minutes, seconds, then milliseconds. And there are all the values from each of these variables. So if you need a value from a date object, you can use the associated get method of a date object. So if you need the year, use the getFullYear method. If you need the hour, date.getHours. Not only are there various get methods to get certain values from a date object, but we can use set methods as well to update and change some of these values. Let's change the year. So to do that, we would type the name of our date object, .setFullYear, then pass in the new year as an argument. So what about 2023? Then let's change the month. Date.setMonth. Pass in a value between 0 and 11. So maybe December, that would be 11. Then a day. Date.setDate. What about Christmas Day? That would be the 25th. Then hours is date.setHours. I'll pass in 0, so it's midnight. Then minutes, date.setMinutes. I'll pass in 0 again because I'm lazy. Then seconds, date.setSeconds. Then milliseconds, date.setMilliseconds. And then I will display our date, console.log date. So my date will be updated, and it is Christmas 2023, midnight. So in conclusion, everybody, a date object is a representation of a moment in time since epoch, our reference point. If you would like a copy of all this code, I will post this to the comments section down below. But yeah, those are date objects in JavaScript.